Oh, hello. Oh, excuse me. Hello, hello. Today we do more reading. I don't know where that accent came from. We have 3 weeks left of doing this. That is 6 more days in total, including today. Yay! um, I will apologize if you hear some snoring in the background. Work schedules have changed, so Virgil is asleep on the bed behind me. Unless he'd feel more comfortable on the couch. In quiet. I don't think he heard me, so that's fine. Alright. So as a refresher for anybody who forgot or, I don't know, doesn't know why, today we are reading through chapters 19 to 24. It's not playing, what the hell? Yeah, today we are reading through chapters 19 and 24 to 24 of the book Iron Flame. We are reading this because the release of the third book is coming out on Tuesday the 21st. And yeah, so the goal is to read up to 6 chapters a day up until that Sunday right before the release of the new book, which I'm excited for. I mean, if Rebecca would stop trying to, pillage everybody's pockets by showing new different editions that she's releasing. I think I've seen a total of now 6 different editions of this book that she's releasing. And I swear to God, that woman just wants to make all her fans bankrupt. Love you, Rebecca, but I only have so much money. But yeah, all of this is in preparation for when the third book does get released, January 21st. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, looking at the rest of this book, it is weird that there's only 6 days left, and we've only gone through a third of the book. Well, maybe less than a third, but still. I don't have any bonus chapters in this one, unfortunately. But there's technically one. It's not a bonus chapter, but it's a Xaden point of view. But there are 66 chapters in this book. I did my math right. Anywho, let's go on here. We'll go to reading. Start chapter 19. Alright. Chapter 19. My heart pounds erratically as I walk past first and second wings dragons, with the rest of my squad 2 days later for flight maneuvers. Koiy stands in front of fourth wing, shifting his weight nervously beside Varish, who watches me with a focus that makes my skin crawl. Like he's mentally tabulating how many strikes he's going to make me wield in punishment for not producing Andarna. And the way Solus lurks behind him, his one golden eye narrowed on me, makes me wonder if Varish will even wait until tomorrow. Because obviously, from his angle, he can see that she isn't here. And worse, he looks happy about it. I made it to 27 strikes in an hour this morning with Carr before my temperature spiked, and he seemed disappointed. That makes 2 of us, considering I didn't hit a single point I aimed for. My arms feel like dead weight after all that wielding. If Varish forces me up to that mountainside again today, I'm not sure I'll come down. There is something off about that orange, Rhiannon notes, adjusting the strap of her flight goggles as we approach the third wing. You mean like the fact that he torched third squad without a second thought? Riddick questions, buttoning his flight jacket. And Varish seems so controlled. Sawyer stretches his arms across his chest. Kind of uptight, you know? Unlike me, Sawyer's only seen him at the surface level. I breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth, fighting off the nausea that threatens to expel my breakfast. It's definitely an odd pairing, Rhea agrees, as we reach Claw Section's dragons. There aren't any third years on the flight field today, leaving more than enough room for the second-year dragons to spread out. But God forbid Terran not stand in the front row like the star of the show. I can already see his head above the others from here, and I'm pretty sure I just heard him chuff a sigh of annoyance. Varish's mouth quirks into a polished smile at me, but the glint in his eyes makes the hold I give on my archive's doors weaken, trickling power into my system in preparation to fight. And what's the deal with the way he stares at you? Sawyer asks, shifting me to block Varish's view. He's always smiling at you like... He shakes his head. I can't quite put my finger on it. Like he knows something you don't. Rhea finishes, giving the red clubtail from First Wing a wide berth as we pass. Is there some history with your mom, maybe? Some bad blood? Not that I know of. They don't even know the half of it, but how could they when I haven't told them? But he's obsessed with Andarna. There's some of the truth. She all right? Sawyer asks. I haven't seen her in a while. She's been resting a lot. I prepare myself for the utter misery of full leathers in the stagnant late summer heat. Then start buttoning as we approach Terran. She can keep up with the simple maneuvers, but the stuff we're doing now, formation flights and timed rolls, there's no point in putting her through this kind of stuff. Selected truths. Makes sense. Sawyer nudges me with his elbow. See you up there. You look a little queasy, Rhea notes, once the guys are out of earshot. Everything alright? I'm fine. I force a quick smile and try to think of anything besides how much it's going to hurt when Varish gets a hold of me. Varish looks eagerly delighted that Andarna isn't here. I will handle this. Right, of course you are. Rhea's mouth curves into a sad glimpse of a smile before she turns away, heading to Fierge, who waits on Terran's other side. Fuck, I mutter, rubbing the bridge of my nose. No matter what I say right now, it's always a wrong thing. She's never going to forgive me for keeping all of this from her once she finds out. She will, he says, his head lowering slightly, but he doesn't dip his shoulder even as I reach his front left claw. Humans have the memories of gnats. Dragons hold grudges. I'm going to forget you said that, I tease back. Be alert. His head swivels and I turn, unsheathing a dagger in the same moment. Surely you wouldn't think of attacking a professor, would you, Sorengale? Varish glances at my weapon, keeping the same mask of a smile in place, let alone a vice commandant. A low growl works up Terran's throat, and he curls his lip just enough to bare the tips of his fangs. I attack anyone foolish enough to sneak up behind me this year. I roll my shoulder back and lift my chin. He leans to the side and looks past Terran's foreleg. No little Feathertail with you today. Obviously. Fear slides down my spine. How unfortunate. He sighs, then turns his back on me, his boots crunching in the dry grass as he heads towards Solus. There will be no maneuvers for you today, Sorengale. My stomach rolls. I'm sorry? Terran shifts sideways, sweeping his foreleg around me so I stand under his chest scales. Not yet. Varys says over his shoulder, his brow puckering for a second as he notices Tyrion's stance. But you will be. Warnings have apparently not worked, and I am hereby charging you with dereliction of duty for the dragon's refusal to appear for maneuvers. You will mount and fly to your training location with Professor Carr to receive your punishment. That will not be happening. Tyrion's head lowers fully, and his body crouches in a defensive position. What's going on? Rhea asks, her gaze jumping between Varys and me as she walks back over to me. Obviously, her first punishment wasn't enough to teach your subordinate squad leader, Matthias, so she's required another. He blinks, tilting his head. And as Vice Commandant, I don't owe you an explanation. Now mount up for maneuvers before you're punished alongside her. There will be no punishment, Tyrion roars, and from the abrupt head jerks of the dragons on the field, including Solus, everyone heard him. It is not within your power to summon a dragon. It takes a second for thoughts to relay through riders, and Varys stiffens. Your dragon may not fall under my command, Sorrengail, but you do. So unless you'd like to further explore that delicate space between burnout and death, you will mount and present yourself. Even the smallest dragon does not answer to the most powerful of humans, which you are not. Tyrion snaps his teeth, the sound crying over the valley. Fierge's head draws back, and her golden eyes widen. And Darna does not answer to you. Tyrion stalks forward, his head and chest so low to the ground that he nearly touches my hair, and Varys retreats. I do not answer to you. Oh shit, this could go very bad very quickly. But you, Varys points at me, answer to me. Does she? Tyrion lunges forward, bypassing Varys entirely and surging towards Solus with an ear-shattering roar, his Morningstar tail lashing the air above me. Solus whips his head towards the ground to guard his most vulnerable area, his neck, but Tyrion is faster, bigger, and far stronger. He's already there, his enormous jaw locked around Solus's throat. I gasped as Tyrion's massive fangs sink between the joints of Solus's scales, piercing his neck, and Koiy sprints to get out of the battleground. Varys turns and stiffens as crimson rivulets run over Solus's orange neck scales, dripping off several of the ridges. Tyrion! What will the Empyrean do to him if he kills Solus? Only a rider can be the vice commandant of Basgiath, Tyrion warns, and Solus lets out a sound of a half-roar, half-shriek. Without a dragon, you are no rider. Oh gods, my heart lurches, the beat rushing to a gallop. Fine! Varys shouts, his fist balled to the side. She will not pay a price for her dragon's refusal to attend. Not good enough. Tyrion's teeth reaches the edge of Solus's scales as I watch in slack-jawed horror. This is about you. Solus half roars, causing his blood to pour even faster down his exposed neck as he whips his tail towards Tyrion, but he's half Tyrion's size and he has no hope of making contact. Thank Doom. All right! Varys staggers forward, and for a second I feel sorry for him. All right, he repeats, putting his hands up. Humans have no authority to summon dragons. Rhiannon sidesteps until her arms brush my shoulder, and Fierge lowers her head, as do Airtrom and Sleesleg. I swear, Rebecca with these pronunciations. Hell, every dragon I can see in my peripherals takes the same stance. Apologize, Tyrion demands, his voice low and sharp. I'm sorry, Varys' voice breaks. Apologize to the one and Darna deemed worthy of her bond. I try to swallow, but my mouth has gone dry. Did he really just... Rhiannon whispers. I think so, I nod. His apology isn't necessary to me, Tyrion. Really, I'm sorry to just not die today. I'm sorry. I'm happy to just not die today. It is necessary to me, Silver One. His voice rumbles in my head. I speak for Andarna while she's in the dreamless sleep. Barish pivots towards me, hatred and terror filling his gaze. I am sorry. It is not my authority to summon any dragon. On your knees. Rhiannon sucks in a breath and Barish hits his knees. You have my most sincere apology. You and your dragons. Both of your dragons. I accept. My gaze darts frantically to Terrence. I accept, I shout, just in case he didn't hear me mentally. Terran dislodges his jaw with a wet, sucking sound as his fangs slip free. What the hell is wrong with slip free of Solus's neck, and he retreats with arrogant footfalls, not even bothering to lower his head or protect his throat. Rhiannon and I fall into the shade of Terran's block as Terran blocks out the sun overhead. And Varys stares at me with a hatred so bitter I can taste it on the back of my tongue as Solus launches behind him with a roar aimed in my direction, or Terran's, leaving behind pools of blood on the grass below. Only once Solus is clear of the flight field does Varys rise to his feet, and I don't need words to hear him out loud and clear as he sends one last lethal look my way and then strides for the end of the flight field and the gauntlet steps. Problem solved. Terran's head swivels, watching Solus's flight path, and the rest of the dragons on the field raise their heads again. But my heartbeat doesn't calm or even slow at the dread that curdles in my stomach. Barish may have been my enemy before, but I have a feeling that this made Solus my nemesis. I thought for sure he'd cancel your leave after Terran nearly slayed Solus, Rhiannon says, walking the path towards the flight field with me 3 nights later. Me too, I admit, as the bells chime a quarter before midnight. I'm sure when Solus is healed, he'll be right back in my face, or worse. It's been a couple of days, she glances over at me, and even though there are only a few feet between us, the distance feels insurmountable. Are you really going to make me use some of those new interrogation tactics we're learning to pry the truth out of you? Would you rather I go with the empathetic or more directly confrontational approach? About? I nudge her shoulder. She shakes her head in frustration. About Varish's little comment that you already been punished once before? Oh, right. I take a deep breath and focus on my footsteps as we near the gauntlet. A few weeks ago, he got mad that Andarna wasn't feeling up to maneuvers and used my signet training as punishment. He what? Her voice raises. Why wouldn't you tell us that? Because I didn't want you targeted. It's the simplest truth. And he's been targeting you? She sounds incredulous. He doesn't like not getting his way. I adjust my pack on my shoulders and grimace as we approach the stairs alongside the gauntlet. This is going to hurt like hell. I subluxated my knee yesterday during a challenge, but at least I won. You really don't have to walk all the way out here with me. It's late. I change the subject before she can dig deeper about Barish. I don't mind. I feel like I've never seen you anymore. God, I feel so fucking guilty and frustrated and lonely. I miss my friends. I'm sorry. It's all I can think to say. Hard to believe that the first years are about to start training on this thing. I look over the gauntlet, the 5 ascents of obstacles the first years will have to complete in order to get to presentation. More like dying on it, she bites out the words. That too. My knee protests every step, threatening to buckle with each stair I climb, but the wrap holds it in place as I limp upward, my hand dragging along the rough stone that lines the staircase on either side. Fucking pointless, she shakes her head. Just another way to weed out the weaker, or worse, the unlucky. It's not. As much as I hate to admit it, the gauntlet has its place here. Seriously? She reaches the top of the stairs and waits for me. Seriously. I begin the walk down the flight field. It made me look at everything differently. I couldn't climb it in the same way you did, the others did, so I had to find another way. It taught me that I could find another way and still survive. The moment on Terran's back, fighting that venom, plays through my mind, and my hand curls around empty air as if I'm still clutching that dagger. I just don't think it's worth the lives it costs. Most of what happens here isn't. It is. My rebuttal is quiet. How can you say that? She halts towards me. You were right there when Ariel fell. Is there any part of you that thinks she would have been a liability to the wing had she survived to threshing? She was a legacy. I look up at the star-filled sky and take a breath before facing her. No, I think she would have been a phenomenal writer. Better than me, that's for sure. But I also know that I can't get the words out. They lodge in my throat, held captive by the memory of Ariel's eyes widening in that second before she fell. I wish that for once you would just say whatever you're thinking. I never know anymore. You don't want to know. That's the most truthful I've been with her since returning. I really do, Violet. It's just us out here. Talk to me. Talk to you? I repeat. Like it's really that simple. Feel something inside me snap under the weight of both our frustrations. Fine. Yes, it's awful that Ariel fell, that she died, but I think I'm a better writer for having been there, having watched her fall to her death, and known that if I didn't get my ass moving, I was going to be next. That's horrible. Rhiannon's lips part, and she looks at me like she's never seen me before. So is everything waiting out there for us. I swing my arms out. That stupid fucking gauntlet isn't just about physically climbing it. It's about overcoming the fear that we can't. It's about climbing after we see it kill our friends. Parapet, gauntlet, presentation, they seem excessive when we're here, but they prepare us for something way worse when we leave. And until I shake my head. You don't know what it's like out there, Rhi. You can't understand. Of course I don't know, she retorts, her body tensing more with every word. You won't talk to me. You're running with Imogen, or locked away reading, or spending every possible Saturday with Ryerson, and that's fine. I want you to get whatever support you need, but you're sure as hell not talking to me, so how would you expect me to know anything? Don't forget, Liam was my friend too. You weren't there. My anger slips from the box I painstakingly built for it, and power whips through me, scalding my veins. You didn't hold him, watch the light fade out of his eyes, knowing that there wasn't a physical thing wrong with him, but he was dying, because Day lay eviscerated just a few feet away. Nothing I did in those moments before mattered. Gods, I held on to him so tightly. My hands curl into fists, my nails biting into my palms. My shoulders almost dislocated, so he was so damned heavy, but I held on, and it didn't matter. Rage burns my throat, devouring me whole. You haven't seen what's out there, what makes me run every fucking morning. Vi, she whispers, her posture sagging, and the look on his face. My voice breaks, and my eyes burn with the memory of Liam's head in my hands. You don't see it every time you try to sleep. You don't hear him begging you to take care of Sloane. You sure as hell don't hear Day scream. I lace my fingers on top of my head and look away, waging war with the grief, the pain, the never-ending guilt, and, as usual, I lose. There's only that box and the blessed emptiness I know it is achievable if I can get a little control. But the words won't stop coming. It's like my mouth has dissociated from my brain, and my emotions are running the show. Whoop. Just making sure I didn't skip a page. And as horrible as it might be, as callous as it might make me, watching Ariel fall and Pryor burn, and even Jack fucking Barlow get crushed under my landslide prepared me for the moment I had to leave Liam's body on the ground and fight. If I'd sat there and mourned like I wanted to, none of us would be here. Imogen, Bodhi, Zayden, Garrick, everyone. We'd all be dead. There's a reason they want us to watch our friends die, Ree. I tap my chest with one finger. We are the weapons, and this place is a stone they use to sharpen us. The energy in my body dwindles, and the heat dissipates. My stomach hollows out at the utter devastation on Rhiannon's face. Taryn's wing beats grow louder as he approaches, and the sound helps settle my heartbeat. I'm sorry, I whisper. And I'm glad you don't know what it's like. Blinking rapidly clears the blurriness from my eyes. I'm grateful every single day that you don't have those memories, that you and Sawyer and Riddick weren't there. I wouldn't wish that day on my worst enemy, let alone my closest friend. And even if I'm quiet lately, that's what you still are, my closest friend. But friends tell the truth. Telling her will put her in danger, but not telling her leaves her unprepared. Well, like we were. And you're right. I should talk to you. You lost Liam too. You have every right to know. No. Taryn's voice blasts through my head, and wind gusts at the back, or at my back, a second before he lands behind me. Solus's rider. Good evening, Cadet Sorengale, Major Varish says directly from our left. Mage lights popping on overhead as he walks around the boulders where he and his guards have been waiting only a dozen feet away. Cadet Matthias, sounds like I may have interrupted a discussion. His guards follow. Oh gods, I almost... But you didn't, Taryn says. Sir? Rhiannon's eyes widen as her gaze swings from me to the Vice Commandant. You know the drill, Cadet. He closes the distance between us and points to the ground. Or are you going to argue that you're not under my command at all now? Taryn lowers his head and rumbles a low growl. Apprehension knots my throat, and I step to the side, taking Ree out of Varish's direct path. Indignation isn't going to help. So, I swing my pack from my shoulders and open it, emptying the contents on the ground. Then, I shake the open bag and show him that it's empty. Happy? Not yet, but one day. His smile makes my stomach churn. I'm patient. The writer finishes the search, taking a look inside my bag just to be sure I actually emptied it before handing it back. Enjoy your leave while you have it, Varish nods, the smile still frozen in place, so the three head off of the field. Assholes! I crouch down and rematches the movement, helping me repack my bag. Thanks. Is that normal? Yes. We stand once everything is tucked away. Are we glad they didn't search you again tonight? We are. But why? Confusion lines her forehead. What is going on that couldn't have been about Andarna? They'll never fully trust Zayden's last name. With good reason, I sling my pack over my shoulder and slip my arms through the straps. I really am sorry for exploding on you back there. That's no excuse. Don't be. She offers me a sad half smile. I'd rather you scream at me than pretend everything is all right with silence. At least there's one truth I can give her. Nothing is all right. Okie dokie. That is the end of chapter 19. When we come back from our break, we will continue with chapter 20. Alrighty, let's jump back in to chapter 20. Chapter 20. The ground rushes up at us as Terran flares his wings, slowing our descent as we land on the field at Samara. We will figure out something else, Terran argues. Even if you move to my shoulder and successfully slide to perch. He shudders. We've spent the better part of the last 2 hours arguing over whether or not I would ever attempt a running landing, which, if you ask Terran, would be never. You can't change graduation requirements. I unbuckle from the saddle and wince at the twinge in my hips that tells me I went too long between breaks. I've never tried, Terran lectures, and his head whips towards the edge of the clearing, tilting in excitement as he watches the tree line for movement. I grin, knowing Sigale must be close. Let's agree that we will come up with a solution that meets graduation requirements without breaking every bone in your body, he suggests quickly. Agreed. I should remember not to only argue with him when he's got better things to do more often. Climbing to the back of the saddle, I unclip the packs and nearly lose my footing with my haste. We're all dead if you fall off my back and break your impatient neck. Because I'm the impatient one, I swing my small pack onto my back, then place one of the heavier packs on each of my shoulders. I can't believe you allowed someone up here to secure the bags. I'm impressed with your restraint. The section leader attaches the bags to the saddle before I put it on, naturally. And here I was thinking you evolved. My knee throbs as I navigate Terran's back, but it's all but forgotten the second I lower my shields and feel the shadowy bond wrap around my mind. It goes against my instincts to block him, but I force my mental shield back into place. After the way we left things last weekend, I have no idea what to expect from him. But he'll damn well expect me to have my shields up no matter how mad we are at each other. Bag secured, I slide down Terran's leg and take the brunt of the impact on my good knee when I hit the ground. Go find Sigale, I urge Terran, heading across the field of trampled grass towards the looming fortress. I'll wait until you're inside as always. You're wasting time. I can feel his anticipation singing through my bloodstream, but I block it out. But I don't block it out, bleh. At least one of us is happy. The thing that happens later, that I'll block out like my life depends on it. And walk faster. I laugh and trudge forward. Gods, these bags are heavy, and weirdly vibrating with energy. Guess these ones have already been imbued with power. An entire company of infantry jog scores me from the arched entrance as I make it to the top of the stone ramp. Oh shit, I'm right in their way. Rider! The commander yells. Before I can step aside, the company splits down the middle and runs around me, so close I can feel the breeze from the air they displace, like I'm a boulder in the middle of the rushing creek. I hold completely still to avoid impact, not even daring to breathe as they run by. When the last of them pass, I exhale, then continue into the bailey. A group of healers crosses in front of my path, and when they clear, I see Xaden striding towards me across the courtyard, his face unreadable. My heart stutters, then pounds, but I make myself move forward. Not sure how it's possible, but I simultaneously want to climb the man and kick him hard in the shins. There's a group of riders in the courtyard behind Xaden, but they're only a blur of black because I can't look away from him. Can't see past him. As complicated as our connection is, it is also undeniably simple. He's the horizon, and nothing exists beyond for me. I'm going to have to force your hand, and I'm sorry, he says quickly, as he approaches, cutting through my shields like they're nothing but lace where he's concerned. What else is new? I pause, noting that everyone behind us gets out of his way. You have you have about 2 seconds to decide if you want time to talk in private tonight. He's less than a dozen feet from me. Not sure you want to be alone with me, considering what I'm carrying. I bristle. That's the first thing he has to say to me after the way he cut out last week. Choose. Yes, of course I want to talk to you in private. Tell me to kiss you, even if it's just for show. There are only heartbeats between us now, and he's not slowing. What? Now, Violet, or you'll be sleeping in someone else's room tonight. The look in his eyes demands an instant answer. Right, because he told me months ago he'd only kiss me when I asked him to. He reaches for me, one hand sliding into the back of my neck and the other bracing my waist as our bodies collide. The impact sends every sense reeling. Kiss me, just for show. I missed you, he says a second before his mouth crashes into mine. You walked out on me, I accuse, nipping the soft skin of his bottom lip with my teeth. Fight later. His hand slides along my face, and he presses his thumb just above my chin. Now kiss me like you mean it. Since you asked so nicely. I part my lips under his, and immediately regret every second I spent not kissing him lately. I whimper at the first stroke of his tongue along mine, and his hand flexes on my waist, gripping me tighter as he sinks into the kiss. Yes, one touch, that's all it takes, and the world around us ceases to exist. This is everything. The energy thrumming in the air around us pales in comparison to the power that floods my veins. The need that ignites within me as we both work to control the kiss. He wins, consuming me, devouring every thought in my head besides getting closer. The bag slides from my shoulder, hitting the ground beside me with a thud, and I wind my arms around his neck, arching against him. I kiss him back like my life depends on his surrender, and tilt my head for the perfect angle. He finds it without even trying, taking the kiss deeper, stealing little pieces of my soul with each swirl and slide of his tongue with an expertise I can't fight. I can't remember why I ever wanted to. Why would I deny myself the explosive pleasure of kissing Xaden? This is when we make sense, when nothing else matters but the feel of his lips, the flick of his tongue behind my teeth, the lust burning through me. I know only he can fully sate. My heart gallops and my body floats as my hands slide into his soft hair. Weightless. He makes me feel totally, completely weightless. Oh, goodness. Like it's possible to fly on nothing but waves of sensation. God, I fucking want him. Just like this, just us. Violet. It's a mental groan as his mouth thoroughly lays claim to mine. Oh, for fuck's sake! A familiar voice intrudes on my own little piece of heaven, and that's what I remember. This is supposed to be for show. And here I am, completely losing myself in him, in the middle of the courtyard, in front of God's only knows who. And that weightless feeling, it's because I'm anchored against his chest by one of his strong arms, my feet dangling off the ground. Good enough for a show for you? I draw back, slowly dragging my teeth across his bottom lip before releasing him. Fuck the show. His eyes flare with the same heat that he has on me, ready to combust. At least I'm not the only one losing control. I know that look on his face. He's just as turned on as I am. He kissed me again, losing his polished finesse in favor of untamed demand, and I melt. Put my sister down, Ryerson. You made your point. That familiar voice. My head whips to the right, breaking the kiss. Mira? She taps her fingers along her folded arms, and her stern expression, eerily close to our mother's, doesn't last more than a breath before her mouth curves into a smile. Good to see you, Vi. What are you doing here? I grin as Zayden sets me down, then I step over the discarded bag and hug my sister. As of yesterday, I'm stationed here. She holds me tightly just like she always does, then pushes me away by the shoulders to do her customary inspection for mortal wounds. I'm fine, I promise her. Are you sure? Her hands move to the sides of my head, and she rises up on her tiptoes to look down at me. Because I'm thinking you must have taken a serious blow to the head to be involved with this one. I blink. What the hell am I supposed to say to that? Play along, or you'll be in her room tonight, not mine, Zayden tells me. She's been more than adamant. Right, well, shit, I really don't want to lie to my sister any more than I have to. I'm going to take your bags to my room, Zayden says, helping me out of the pack on my back, then picking up the 2 I dropped. Thank you, I say, mostly out of habit. He leans in and brushes a kiss over my forehead. I have duty today. No, I whisper, my stomach dropping in disappointment. That doesn't exactly leave us time to talk, which is probably the point. I guess we can't fight if we don't talk. We'll have time later, he promises. Have fun with your sister. I'll see you tonight. He brushes a flight loosened strand of my hair behind my ear and grazes his knuckles gently down the side of my cheek. Alright. If it wasn't all for the show, I'd be a puddle. And the heat in his eyes, when they met mine for a second, I'm instantly warm despite the mountain air. Don't let her set anything on fire, he says over his shoulder to Mira as he walks away, headed for the corridor near the southwestern staircase. I scoff, but that doesn't stop me from watching him go. Keep your shields up. It's not like they help block you out. Told you, I'm harder than most, he replies. Keep them up anyway. It's not me you have to worry about. He's carrying your bags up to his room for you? Mira says, slowly moving to my side and glancing between Zayden's retreating back and me. He is? I nod. Or is he? The ache in my chest turns bitter. Maybe he's actually taking 2 of those bags to a drop point and leaving me with Mira to distract me. I hate that I can't trust him. Oh my goodness. Where was I? I hate that I can't trust him, but he can't trust me. That we're at this impasse. Oh shit, Mira mutters. What? I sigh as she disappears into the building. Or as he disappears into the building. What the hell? You're not just fucking him, are you? You're falling for him. She stares at me just like I've lost my mind. My gaze swings to hers, and though I know I can't lie to her. Not about this. Not exactly. Who do you think you're fooling? He basically swallowed you whole, and now you're watching him with those big, soft eyes that are practically oozing with. She gestures at my face, her nose crinkling like she smells something bad. What even is that? Yearning? Infatuation? I roll my eyes. Love? She says the word like it's poisonous, and something on my face must give me away because the disgust on hers morphs into shock. Oh no, you're in love with him, aren't you? You can't possibly know that just by looking at me. I counter, my spine stiffening. Ugh, let's go throw knives and shit. Brennan is alive. Brennan is alive. Brennan is alive. It's all I can think as we empty our sheets into the wooden targets that line the back of the outpost. the outpost small sparring gyms on the north side of the first floor. It's a far cry from the spit on the south side of, or from the pit, sorry, on the south side of the fortress I first found Xaden fighting in. Keeping secrets from Rhiannon is loathsome, but not telling Mira that Brennan is alive might just make me the worst person on the continent. I am the I am the last person to judge who you sleep with, Mira starts. Then don't. I flip my next to last dagger, catch it by the tip, and throw it, hitting the neck of the target. Regulations aside, because yes, what you're doing is fraternizing, she throws her next dagger without even looking and hits the target mid-chest. With an officer, I'm just saying that if it goes badly, you're stuck with each other for the rest of your careers. But you're not judging. I throw my last dagger, hitting her target in the neck. Fine, maybe I'm judging, she shrugs, and we walk to the targets, but you're my only sibling. I'm allowed to worry. But I'm not. She and Brennan were inseparable as kids. If one of us should know that he's alive and healthy, it's her. You don't have to worry about me. I yank my daggers out of the wood one by one, and sheath them along my thighs and my ribs. You're a second year. Of course I'm going to worry. She retrieves her own knives and looks over her shoulder at a pair of riders sparring on the mat behind us. How is RSC going? She asks, lowering her voice. We lost a rider in the first exercise. 2 maps? Yeah, it's a mindfuck. She presses her lips to a thin line, but that's not what I meant. You're worried about the interrogation portion, I guess, sheathing the 11th dagger at my ribs. They're going to beat you black and blue just to see if you can take it. She plucks my dagger from the throat of her target, and the way you break. I can handle pain. I turn toward her. I live in pain. I practically built a house there and set up a whole economy. I can take whatever they dish out. After war games, RSC is when the most second years die, she admits quietly. And they take 1 or 2 squads at a time for exercises, so you don't really notice the increase in the death roll, but it's there. If you don't break, they can accidentally torture you to death. And if you do break, they'll kill you for it. Her gaze drops to my dagger, and she looks concerned. It's going to be a shitty few days, but I'll be alright. I made it this far. Breaking bones is a Tuesday for me. Since when do you use Tirish daggers? She holds mine up, examining the black hilt and the decorative rune at the pommel. I haven't seen runes like these in a while. Xaden gave them to me. Gave? She hands it back. I won them from him during a sparring match last year. I sheathe it at my ribs beside the others as she lifts a skeptical eyebrow and chuckles. So yeah, he pretty much gave them to me. Huh. She tilts her head to the side and studies me, seeing more than I want her to, like always. They look custom. They are. They're harder to knock out of my hands than the traditional length and not as heavy. She doesn't look away as we walk back to the throwing line. What? I feel my cheeks heat. He has a vested interest in keeping me alive. I know you don't like him. I know you don't trust him. He's a Ryerson, she says. You shouldn't trust him either. I don't. I look away after the whispered confession. But you're in love with him. She heaves a frustrated sigh and throws a dagger. I don't even know what that is, but unhealthy is the first word that comes to mind. It's us, I murmur, and change the subject. Why did they station you here anyway? I chose a spot on the target in the upper abdomen, then hit it. Samara's warded, and you're a walking shield. Kind of a waste of your signet. She's a shield. Why the hell didn't I think of asking her about the wards sooner? Maybe the answer isn't in a book. Maybe it's in Mira. After all, her signet is the ability to extend the wards, to tug the protections with her even when they shouldn't be able to stretch. She glances back at the sparring pair. I think they're worried about attacks here because this outpost has one of the biggest power supplies for the wards. If this place falls, a giant portion of the border is vulnerable. Because they're set up like dominoes, I throw another dagger, wincing when I'm not as careful as I should be on my aching knee. Not exactly. What would you know about it? She throws another without looking and hits the target true. Fucking show off, I mutter. Is there anything you don't excel at? Poisons, she answers, flicking another dagger at the target. Never had the aptitude for them like you and Brennan. Or maybe it's just that I could never sit still long enough to listen to Dad's lessons. Now tell me, tell me what you know about the wards. She shoots a sideways look at me. Weaving isn't taught until third year, and anything beyond is classified. I read. I shrug and hope to Zinnial it looks nonchalant. I know that they originate from the Wardstone in the Vale because of the hatching grounds located there, and that they're boosted with a power supply along our border outposts to extend their natural distance in place and maintain a strong defense. All common knowledge, or at least researchable. She flings another knife. They're woven to the ground out here, she says quietly as the pair behind us continue sparring. Think of an umbrella. The ward stone is the stem, and the wards take the shape of the dome over Navarre. She motions with her hands, forming the shape. But just like an umbrella's spokes are the strongest at the stem, by the time the wards reach the grounds, they're too weak to do much without a boost. Provided by the alloy, I whisper. My heart starts to pound. And the dragons, she nods. Two lines appearing between her brows. You know about alloy? Are they teaching this now, or did Dad? It's the alloy stored in the outpost that tugs someone of those umbrella spokes forward. I continue, flipping my dagger in my hand by pure muscle memory. Extending the wards twice as far as they'd normally reach in some cases, right? Right. And what's it made of? That's definitely above your clearance, she scoffs. Fine. It stings a little that she won't tell me, but how do you weave new wards? Like, if you wanted to protect places like Aspen. Flip, flip, flip. I keep moving the dagger and hope she sees it as casual. You don't. She shakes her head. The extensions are what we weave. It's like continuing a tapestry that's been stretched too far. You're just adding threads to something that already exists. And we can't extend the wards to Aspen. We've tried. But who told you? Is that how your signet works? I stop flipping. Because you're basically a ward, right? Not exactly. I kind of pull the wards with me. Sometimes I can manifest on my own, but I have to be close to an outpost. Kind of like I'm just another thread. What has gotten into you? She flicks another dagger, and it lands dead center. Oop, did I? No. Do you know how the wardstone works? I ask, lowering my voice to a whisper. No. Her eyes flare. Keep throwing before curious ears start listening. I dutifully throw another. That information is way beyond my rank. And yours. Her next dagger lands right next to the first. Why are you asking? Just curious. Don't be. It's classified for a reason. Her wrist flicks another knife towards the target. The only people who know, are the ones who need to know, just like every other piece of classified intelligence. Right. I force a smile and throw my next dagger, with a little more strength than necessary. Time to change the subject. Maybe she knows, or maybe she doesn't. But she's definitely not going to tell me. Speaking of classified, were you on any of the missions to check the Poromish cities for damage? I put my hands up when she gawks at me. They told us about it in Battle Brief. It's not secret anymore. No, she answers, but I saw one of the riots who did the flying since while Tyne and I were on patrol. My stomach twists. Do you know anyone who was on the missions? No. Another knife, another hit. But I read the reports. Did they give those to you? I shake my head. And you trust the reports? It doesn't come out as casual as I'm trying for. Of course. She reaches my eyes for answers. I can't give. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you? Her hands make a quick outward motion, and the noise of the sparring pair disappears. It's a sound shield, just like she used in Monster Act. A lesser magic. But still a tricky one I haven't mastered. Tell me what's going on with you, now. I was thrown into battle with dark wielders, and lost one of my closest friends, fought an actual venom on the back of my dragon, and then was amended by our very not dead brother. Nothing. She gives me the look. The one that always loosens my tongue when we were kids. I waver. If there was only one person on the continent I could tell, it would be Mira. I just think it's weird that you wouldn't know anyone on the missions into Paramiel. You know everyone. And how do you know that what you saw was one of the riots tasked with a reconnaissance? I asked. Because there were over a dozen dragons in the distance to the south over the border. What the hell else could it have been, Violet? She gives me a skeptical look. This is it. This is the opening to tell her the truth. The chance to bring her in so she fights over the right side of conflict. So she can see our brother. Wyvern. She saw Wyvern. But it's not just my life I'd be risking by telling her. My heart sinks. But I have to. Xaden could never understand. He doesn't have a sister. I don't know, I whisper. What if they're Wyvern? There, I said it. Kind of. She blinks and draws her head back. Say again? What if you saw Wyvern? What if they're destroying Poromish cities, since we both know it isn't dragons? My hand clenches around the hilt of my last dagger. What if there's an entire war out there we know nothing about? Her shoulders dip and sympathy fills her eyes. You have to spend less time reading those fables, Vi. Have you been getting enough rest since the Griffin's attack? Because you sound like maybe you're not sleeping. The concern in her tone breaks me down like nothing else could, and it's hard to see combat for the first time, let alone as a first year. But if you don't get enough sleep and present a stable, steady front, riders have to be solid, Violet. You understand what I'm saying? Of course she doesn't believe me. I wouldn't either. But she's the only person in the world who absolutely unconditionally loves me. Brennan let me believe he was dead. Would still let me believe it. Mom has never seen me as anything less or anything but a liability. Xaden, I couldn't even go there. No, I shake my head slowly. No, I'm not sleeping very well. It's an excuse, but I take it. Heaviness settles in my chest. She sighs, and the relief in her eyes eases a little of the weight in mine. That explains it. I can recommend some really great teas that will help. Come on, let's get these daggers out and get you to bed. You've had a long flight, and I have I have duty in a few hours anyways. She leads me to the targets, and we remove the daggers once again. You're on duty with Xaden? I ask in a fill of silence as we pull blade after blade from the wood. No, he's in the operations center, which is above my clearance, I know. I have a patrol flight. She puts her arm around my shoulders. Don't worry. We'll get to spend some time together when you're here next. Every 2 weeks, right? Right. Alright. The sky is black when Zayden slides into the bed shirtless, the movement waking me from the fitful attempt at sleep. Enough moonlight comes through the window to see the harsh, beautiful lines of his face as he turns towards me, both of us lying on our sides. Enough moonlight to see a silver scar across his heart. I somehow missed in the fighting pits. Was he wounded at Resson? Okay, hold on. Alright, I take a quick drink real quick. You're awake. He leans onto his elbow, propping his head on his hand. I don't sleep well anymore. I tug the summer weight blanket over my shoulders, as he hasn't seen me in less than a slip of a nightgown I'm wearing. And I don't have it in me to fight tonight. Then we won't fight. Because it's that simple. Even my sarcasm is exhausted. It is, if that's what we decide. His gaze wanders over my face, softening with every second. What time is it? A little after midnight. I wanted to talk to you earlier, but there was an incident. Mira? I jolt upright, fear stabbing deep. She's fine. Everything's fine. Just some civilians trying to cross the border, and some infantry wasn't pleased. They weren't pleased? They killed them. He admits softly. Happens all the time out here, just doesn't get briefed at Bezgaeth. Lie back down. The suggestion is gentle. Mira's perfectly fine. We kill civilians? That information goes straight to the box. Whew. I almost told her today, I whisper, the confession as my head hits the pillow. Even knowing no one can hear us in here. For all my anger, you're right not to trust me, because I almost told her. I even hinted, hoping she'd catch on. A bitter laugh slips free. I want her to know. I want her to see Brennan. I want her to be on our side. My throat threatens to close. Zayden reaches out and claps my cheek. There's no reproach in his gaze, or even judgment, though I've just given him a reason to shut me out for the rest of our lives. His silence, the quiet acceptance in his eyes keeps me talking. I just feel heavy, I admit. I don't have anyone who knows who I really am anymore. The guy I considered my best friend nearly got us killed. I'm keeping secrets from Rhiannon, from my sister, from you. There's not a single person in the world I'm entirely truthful with. I haven't exactly made it easy for you to trust me, he says, stroking his thumb over my cheek. I'm still not making it easy. But you and I are not easy people. What we build together has to be strong enough to withstand a storm or a war. Easy isn't going to give that to us. What we build together, the words make my reckless heart clench. Words. I should have told you I was reading into the wards. I rest my hand on the warm skin of his arm. I knew you'd not. I knew you'd tell me not to, but I'd probably do it anyways. But mostly, I didn't tell you because I can't even say it. Because I don't tell you anything either. His thumb strokes across my cheek again. You put it between us on purpose. Gave yourself a secret because I wouldn't share all of mine. I nod. You're allowed to have secrets. That's the point. I'd prefer they not risk everything I've worked toward for the last few years, for your life. And yes, I'm still not happy about the scribe, but we're not fighting tonight. I just need to know the important things. I won't withhold withhold information that could change how you make decisions. And I ask you the same of you. His thumb continues the same soothing, lazy pattern. I don't want us to have secrets, but he's already made it clear that's not changing. So maybe it's time to try another tactic. How long will you hold on to the weapons for? A corner of his mouth tugs upward. I won't meet up with the drift for another couple of weeks. Holy shit, it worked. You answered. I did. He smiles, and an ache wakes in my chest. How did it go with Varish? Terra nearly ripped out Solus's throat, which worked for getting Andarna out of maneuvers, but may end up causing me bigger problems in the future. A small smile spreads across my face. Look at us, having a conversation without fighting. We'll keep an eye on the situation. I'm slightly worried I'll kill Varish if he pushes you to burn out again. There's no teasing in his voice, and I know he'll do it. What's the weaving book you left me after graduation? I changed the subject with a small, confused shake of my head. And the strips of fabric? Do you think I'm suddenly going to start crafting? I just thought you might like to keep your hands busy. He shrugs with one shoulder, and the devious glint in his eyes says it's something more than that. So I keep them off other cadets? I just thought you might like to explore an aspect of Tyr's culture. I can weave every knot in that book. He flashes a smile. It'll be fun to see if you can keep up with me. In fabric knots? Has he fallen off Sagale recently? Culture, violence. His hand slides to the base of my neck, and his gaze turns serious. Do you have nightmares about Resin? Is that why you can't sleep? I nod. I dream of a million different ways we could have lost. Sometimes I dream it's Imogen who dies, or Garrick, or you. Those are the ones that make it impossible to sleep afterward. The ones where their sage takes him from me. Come here. He wraps his arms around my waist and tugs, rolling me toward him. My back settles against his chest as he tucks me in close. Gods, he hasn't held me like this since the last night we destroyed my room. Warmth infuses every inch of my exposed skin, pushing the cold from my bones. The ache in my chest expands. Tell me something real. It comes out as a plea, just like it did last year. He sighs and curls around me. I know who you really are, Violet. Even when you keep things from me, I know you, he promises. And I know everything about him to be a real liability with the interrogation portion of RSC coming up. I'm still not strong enough to shield you out. Right now, with his arm draped around my waist, I'm not sure I want to. I'm not a good measure of your skill, he says against the bare skin of my shoulder, and a shiver of awareness ripples through me. The day you can successfully block me all the way out is the day I'm dead. We're both dead. I can't block you out entirely either, which is how you found me in the sub-level even when my shields were up. You might not be able to barge through, but you're aware I'm there. Just like you can muffle Terran and Andarna's emotions, but you can't lock them out forever. My breath hitches. So I might be strong enough to block Dane? Yes, if you keep the shields intact at all times. What's alloy made of? I ask, heady with the knowledge that I can keep Dane out. An amalgamation of palladium, a few other ores, and dragon eggshells. I blink with surprise, both at his answer and the fact that he told me. Dragon eggshells? Well, that's weird. They're metal and still carry magic long after the dragons hatch. His lips skim the back of my neck and inhales, then sighs. Now go to sleep before I forget all my horrible intentions. I could remind you of some very fun, very dishonorable ones. I lean back into him, and he throws his leg over mine, locking me down tight. You want to give me those 3 little words? I stiffen. I thought not. Sleep, Violet. His arms tighten around me. You love me, he whispers. Stop reminded me. I thought we agreed not to fight tonight. I snuggle in deeper, his warmth lulling me into that sweet middle space between wakefulness and oblivion. Maybe you're not the one I'm reminding. No. At the end of chapter 20. Right, let me mark that. Alright, so when we come back from our break here, we will read chapter 21. Alright. Alright. FYI, I had to add this note below. It'll be there from here on out. Sorry. Alright, let's get into chapter 21, shall we? Position myself there. I've decided rolling dismounts might be the death of me yet. Thursday morning begins with my arm in a sling that's secured around my ribs with a strap, immobilizing my shoulder thanks to yesterday's maneuvers. Turns out Taryn was right, and though I'm capable of making it to his shoulder, my body doesn't make the impact of the actual landing very well. We both agree this time accommodations will need to be made before graduation. How's it feeling today? Rhiannon asks as we walk into the history class we share with Third Wing on the second floor. Like Taryn set me down and I just keep going. I answer, it's not my first sprain. Healers say it should be about 4 weeks in the sling. I'm giving it 2, maybe. I'll be the first on the challenge board after threshing, if I give it much longer than that. You could ask Nolan, Riddick starts, then stops, when he sees the look on my face. What? Don't tell me Varish won't let you get mended. Not that I'm aware of, no, I countered as we find our seats. I put my name on Nolan's list, but I was told he likely wouldn't have an opening before it healed naturally. Ree shoots me a look that says, told you so, but I just give my head a quick shake. That is not the place to explore her conspiracy theories, even if they're starting to feel more and more like there might be some truths to them. I've never known a mender with a waiting list a month long. Thursdays are my second favorite day of the week. No maneuvers, no RSC, no physics. I unload the heavy textbook and the notes I took on today's assigned reading, which is more like review for me. There hasn't been a single thing in this class I hadn't already studied with my father or Markham, or that I don't have trouble believing is true now. Then I take out a few strips of the bright blue fabric Zayden left me and put them in my lap. I've got 2 of the knots in the book down already, and I'm determined to have 2 more by the time he gets here on Saturday. It's a ridiculous thing to challenge me on, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to lose. Even a sling won't stop me. Excuse me, sorry. Wonder who's actually here to teach, Sawyer says, stepping over the back of his chair from the row behind us and sitting next to Riddick on my left. Pretty sure I just saw most of the leadership making a run for the flight field. My heart stops. What? Only a major attack would empty Bezgaia of leadership. I turn in my seat to look out the window behind us, but the view of the courtyard isn't helping. They were running. Sawyer makes a running motion with his feet, with his first 2 fingers. That's all I know. Good morning, Professor Devera walks in, her smile tight, as she passes 3 rows of tables and chairs to get to the front of the room. I'll be filling in for Professor Lavini. He was called away due to an attack on the eastern wing. She makes a quick study of his clustered desk, then picks up the book on top. You'll hear about it in Battle Brief tomorrow. But so far, there's only 1 death. Her throat works before she looks up from the book. Mason Sanborn. Some of you may have known him since he's a recent graduate. Mason. Oh my gods, no. His face flashes through my mind, smiling as he pushes his glasses up his nose. It could be coincidence. There's no logical way an attack would be used to cover up a single death, right? Unless they assassinated him during the attack, I mumble under my breath. We weren't even friends. I didn't even know him that well. But out of the 10 of us who flew into Ressen, now only 6 are still alive. What? Ree leans into my space. Violet? I blink quickly and clutch the fabric in my lap. It's nothing. Ree's brows lower, but she sits back in her seat. I see. I see he has you. I see he has you discussing the second Signy incursion from year 328. Devera rubs the back of her neck. But I honestly don't see how that has any practical application. That makes most of us, Riddick comments, tapping his pen against his textbook, and those around us chuckle. But just to say that we did, Devera continues, running a hand up and down a faded scar marring the warm brown skin on her upper arm. Everyone should know that the end result of the 4-day temper tantrum was Signissen being absorbed into the kingdom of Paramiel, where they've been for the last 300 years. History and current events are tied because because one influences the other. She glances up at the map on the wall that's about a fifth of the size of the one in the briefing room. Can anyone tell me the differences between Paramiel's provinces and ours? The room is quiet. This is important, cadets. Devera moves to the front of Professor Lavini's desk and leans back against it. When no one answers, she gives me an arch look. Paramiel's provinces maintain their individual culture and identities, I answer. Someone from Signissen is more likely to label themselves as a Signy instead of Poromish. As opposite to our provinces, who unified under the protection of the First Wards, choose the common language, and blended the cultures of all 6 provinces into one cohesive kingdom. I recite it nearly verbatim from Markham's book. Except Tyrandor, someone from the left remarked, Third Wing, they never quite got the unified message, did they? My stomach sinks. Soul. No, Devera points her finger to the guy. That's what we're not going to do. It's comments like that threaten the unity of Navarre. Now, Sorengale brought up a good point that I think some of you are missing. Navarre chose the common language, but who was it common to? She calls on someone from the tail section. The Chaldeer, Deaconshire, and Elysium provinces. The woman answers. Correct. Devera's gaze sweeps over us, just like it does in Battle Brief. When she expects us to not only think the answers, but come up with the questions ourselves. Which means what? The Lucerys, Moraine, and Tyrandor provinces lost their languages. Sawyer answers. Swifting in his seat. He's from Lucerys, along the bitterly cold northwestern coastline. Technically, they gave them up willingly for the good of the unification, but other than a few words here and there being assimilated, they're dead languages. Correct. There is always a cost, Devera says, enunciating every word. That doesn't mean it's not worth it. But not being aware of the price we pay to live under the protection of the wards is how rebellions happen. Tell me what the other costs have been. Oh, that was speaking. She folds her arms and waits. Come on, I'm not telling you to commit treason. I'm asking for historical facts in a history class of second-year writers. What was sacrificed in the unification? Travel, someone from Claw Section answers. We're safe here, but we're not welcome beyond our borders. Or is anyone welcome past our borders? Good point, Devera nods. Navarre might be the largest kingdom on the continent, but we are not the only one, nor do we travel to the Isles anymore. What else? We lost major parts of our culture, a girl with a rebellion relic winding around her arm answers from 2 rows ahead. Tail section, I think. Not just our language, our songs, our festivals, our libraries, everything in Tirish had to be changed. And the only unique thing we kept were our runes, because there's too much of our architecture to justify changing. Like the ones on my daggers, the ones on the columns of the temple in Arisha, the ones I'm currently weaving in my lap. Yes, somehow Devera makes the words sound both sympathetic and blunt at the same time. I'm not a historian, I'm a tactician, but I can't imagine the depth of what we lost knowledge-wise. The books were all translated into the common language, someone from Third Wing argues. Festivals still happen, songs are still sung. And what was lost in translation? The Tirish girl ahead of me asks. Do you know? Of course I don't know. His lip rises in a sneer. It's a dead language to all but a few scribes. I drop my gaze to my notebook. Just because it's not Tirish doesn't mean you can't walk into the archives and read whatever translated Tirish book you want. It's his haughty, arrogant tone that pricks my temper. No, actually, you can't. I drop the fabric in my lap. For starters, no one can just walk into the archives and read whatever they want. You have to put in a request that any scribe can deny. Secondly, only a portion of the original scribes spoke Tirish, meaning it would have taken hundreds of years to translate every text, and even then, there are no historical tomes older than 400 years in our archives that I know of. They're all 6th, 7th, or 8th editions. Logic dictates that she's right. I gesture up to the girl a few rows ahead. Things are lost in translation. He looks ready to argue. Cadet Trebor, if I were you, I would consider the fact that Cadet Sorengale has spent more times in the archives than anyone else in this room, and then I would carefully consider an intelligent response. She arches a brow. The guy from Third Wing shoots a glare in my direction and sits back in his chair. We lost our folklore, Rhiannon says. Every muscle in my body locks. Devera cocks her head to the side. Go on. I'm from a border village near Signisson, Rhiannon says. A lot of our folklore came from the other side of the border, probably as results of the migration of the first year. And as far as I know, none of it's written. It only survives as an oral history. She glances my way. Violet and I were actually talking about this last year. People raised in Chaldeer or Luceris or other provinces aren't raised with the same folklore. They don't know the stories they don't know the stories, and generation by generation we're losing it. She looks left, then right. I'm sure all of us have similar stories depending on where we grew up. Sawyer knows some stories Riddick doesn't. Riddick knows stories Violet doesn't. Impossible, Riddick counters. Violet knows everything. Sawyer laughs and I roll my eyes. All excellent points, Devera nods, a satisfied smile curving her mouth. And what did the migration of the first year give us? A more unified culture, a girl from Tail section answers, not only within our provinces, but throughout the continent. And it allowed those in what now Promiel a chance to live under the safety of the wards if they choose to move. 1 year. That's all Navarre gave before we closed our borders. And if you couldn't afford to move your family, couldn't risk the treacherous journey, nothing about war or the aftermath is kind. Correct, Devera says, which means there's every chance that when you fly against a drift, you could encounter a distant relative. The question we must all ask ourselves as we enter service is, Are our sacrifices worth it to keep the citizens of Navarre safe? Yes, the answer is muttered all around me, some riders saying it louder than others. But I keep quiet because I know it's not only Navarre paying the price, it's everyone outside our wards. The gym buzzes with anticipation that afternoon is sorry. Start that. The gym buzzes with anticipation that afternoon as the combat professors call the first names of the day to the mats. These will be the last challenges for months. The first years will have the gauntlet to worry about starting next week, then presentation and threshing. And the second years will start disappearing by the squad for a few days at a time so they can teach us how to make torture, or how to take torture. Bleh. Fun times. A squadron tail section is called to our mat. I really hope I get called to the mat today. Riddick bounces on his toes. I'm in the mood to kick some ass. That makes one of us. I tighten the strap of my sling over my armor, looking across the mat. I nod to Imogen, lifting my eyebrows as she talks with Sloane. She nods back with a smile, telling me wordlessly that Sloane is ready to take on her opponent today. Rhiannon and Sawyer are doing the same with the other first years, checking in as names are called out around the gym. I glance Aric's way, but as usual, he's completely, totally focused, tuning out everything around him as he stares at the mat. How bad do you think the attack on the Eastern Wing is? It has to be something massive to call out half leadership all day long, Riddick muses. Big enough to kill Mason. Speculating is only going to fuel rumors, Dane says, taking the empty space on my left side. Fuck, I've managed not to have to interact with him for weeks. I step closer to Riddick and lock every brick of my shields in place. As opposed to not noticing that most of the professors flew out of here like the wards have fallen, Riddick says. Or asks. Oops. The wards haven't fallen. Dane barely spares him a glance, crossing his arms. You'd know if they had. You think we'd be able to feel it? Riddick asks. We would have been called out too, I say, and the dragons would have told us. Can't you ask your mom? Riddick tilts his head. The woman who knew I was missing for a week, then told me to get back information when she realized I'd survived my first combat mission? Yeah, I'm sure she'll be forthcoming with all the information. I give him a sarcastic thumbs up. The first pair is called to the mat, and I'm simultaneously horrified and grateful I don't know the first year's names. You finally going to talk to me? Dane asks. No. I don't give him the courtesy of even looking at him, and to be sure he gets the point, I move to Riddick's other side, putting him between us. Come on, Violet. He walks behind Riddick, then squeezes in between Quinn and me. You have to be ready at some point. We've been friends since you were 5. We're no longer friends, and I'll be ready to talk when when the sight of you doesn't make me want to bury my knife in your chest all the way to the fucking hilt. I'll walk away before I act on the urge to stab the memory-stealing asshole. You cannot keep running away from me. I lift my middle finger around the corner of the mat, round the corner of the mat, taking the spot next to Rhiannon. What was that about? She asks, wincing when our first year's takes a punch to the kidney. Dane being an asshole, as usual. Sometimes the best answer to is the simplest. Our first year kicks out, catching tail section directly in the mouth, and the blood sprays. I don't get it. She shoots me a confused look, leaning in to murmur so Dane doesn't overhear. I figured the thing at graduation was him and Ryerson dick measuring. But you don't speak to Atos anymore. I thought he was your best friend. Sure, you two grew apart last year, but to not even be on speaking terms? Was. My gaze tracks Dane as he walks around the mat to Professor Emiterio. He was my best friend. For 15 years, there was no one closer. I'd thought he was going to be my everything. Look, I'll hate him on principle if that's what we're doing. No problems with that, but I know you. You don't cut people out like that unless they hurt you. So tell me, as your friend, did he hurt you? She says quietly. Or is this something else we aren't talking about? My throat clenches. He stole something from me. Seriously? Her gaze pierces mine. Then report him for violation of codex. He shouldn't be our wing leader. If only she knew what her last wing leader had been stealing. It's more complicated than that. How much can I tell her without being too much? Our first year pulls off a quick comeback, getting his opponent's leg into a bow and arrow submission maneuver. It's a quick tap out after that. We all clap. So far, we're looking like the squad to beat again this year, especially with the way Auric is racking up the wins. Emiterio looks at Dane, then clears his throat. I breathe deeply, waiting for him to call Sloane's name. You sure? Emiterio asks. It's within my right as wing leader. He disarms, unclipping his sheets and dropping them to the edge of the mat. What the actual hell? Not denying that, Emiterio rubs a thick hand across his shaved head. Next match is Dane Atos against Violet Sorengale. My stomach hits the floor. If my shields slip, I could doom everyone in Arisha and every marked one in the quadrant. Imogen's eyes aren't just wide. They're huge as she looks at me, backing away from the mat before quickly disappearing. Where is she going? It's not like she can run and get Zayden to interfere like last year. I'm on my own. No fucking way, Rhiannon shakes her head. She's wounded. Maybe not entirely on my own. And since when does that matter? The other squad leader continues. Breathe. I need to breathe. This is bullshit. I look Dane in the eyes when I say it, and he simply folds his arms across his chest. There's no getting out of this. He's a wing leader. He can challenge whoever he wants, whenever he wants, just like Zayden had last year. Ironically, I'd been in far less danger the first time Zayden had taken me to my back on the mat. Then I'd be gambling just my life. But this could get the people I care about killed. Keep your shields in place, Terran warns. His agitation rolls through me, prickling the hair on my neck. Dane steps out onto the mat, completely disarmed, but I've seen him spar. He's not Zayden, but he's deadly enough without any weapons, and I'm down an arm. You shouldn't do this, Bodhi shouts as he runs at us, skidding to a stop next to me. Imogen isn't far behind. She'd run to find the closest person to Zayden possible. Makes sense. She's in a fucking sling, Atos. Last time I checked, you're a section leader. Dane narrows his eyes on Bodhi. And your cousin isn't her wing leader anymore. I am. The muscles in Bodhi's neck bulge. Zayden's going to fucking kill him, he whispers. Yeah, well, he isn't here. It's fine, I lie, reaching for my first dagger. Just remember who trained me. I'm not talking about hand to hand, and from the look Bodhi gives me, he knows it too. Keep the daggers if that makes you feel better, Cadet Sorengale, Dane says, finding the center of the mat. My eyebrows shoot up. You know she's good enough to kill you from here with those, Bodhi reminds him. She won't. Dane cocks his head at me. I'm her oldest friend, remember? And this is currently friendly behavior? Rhiannon counters. Taking a fortifying breath, I secure every brick in my shields, just like Zayden taught me, and step out onto the mat, palming one of my daggers in my free hand. If it comes between killing Dane and saving Zayden, there's no choice. Emiterio signals the beginning of the match, and Dane and I circle each other. Reach for my face, and I'll cut you open, I warn him. Deal. He responds a second before he lunges for me, going for a torso. I know his moves and easily dodge my first attempt, spinning out of reach. He's fast. Being chosen as wingler wasn't all nepotism. He's always been good on the mat. You're faster than last year, he smiles like he's proud of me as we circle again. Xaden taught me a few things last year. He winces, then attacks, swinging for my torso again. I flip my dagger so the blade runs perpendicular to my forearm as I duck underneath his jab, then punch upward, clipping him under the jaw without cutting him. Fuck yes! I hear Riddick cheer, but I don't take my eyes off Dane. Dane blinks, then rotates his jaw. Damn. This time, he comes at me faster. It's harder to duck and dodge his swings without my arm to balance. Without my arm to balance. But I hold my own until he catches me unaware and sweeps my feet out from under me with his. My back slams into the mat and pain erupts in my shoulder, so sharp that stars swim in my vision, and I cry out. But damned if my blade isn't at Dane's throat when he pins me with a forearm at my collarbone. A heartbeat later. Shields. I have to keep my shields up. I just want to talk to you, he whispers, his face inches from mine. The pain is nothing compared to the ice-cold fear of having his hands so close to me. And I just want you to leave me the fuck alone. I hold my knife steady right where he can feel it. It's not an idle threat, Dane. You will bleed out on this mat if you can think of taking a single one of my memories. That's what Ryerson meant when he said Athman, isn't it? He takes his tone just as soft as his eyes, those familiar eyes I've always been able to count on. How the hell did we end up here? 15 years of the closest friendship I've ever known, and my knife could end him with a flick of my wrist. You know damned well what he meant, I reply, keeping my voice down. 2 lines appear between his brows. I told my father what I saw when I touched you. When you stole my memory? I correct him. But it was a flash of a memory. Ryerson told you he'd been going to Athman with his cousin. He searches his eyes. Second years don't get leave for that kind of flight, so I told my father. I know you were attacked on the way there, but I had no way of knowing. You said, I'll miss you. It comes out in a hiss. And then you sent me to die. Sent Liam and Soliel to their deaths. Did you know what was waiting for us? No. He shakes his head. I said I'll miss you because you chose him. I told you I knew things about him, that he had reasons you don't know about to hate you, and you still chose him. I knew I was saying goodbye to any chance of us on that field. I had no clue Griffins were waiting to ambush you. If you expect me to believe that, then you sorely misjudged me. And I know every reason Xaden has to hate me, and none of them matter. You know about the scars on his back? He challenges, and I contemplate cutting into his throat to get him off me. The 107 for the marked ones he's responsible for? Yes, you're going to have to do better than that. Do you know who carved those wounds into his skin? I blink, and fuck him, he sees it. The flash of doubt. Tap out, Sawyer shouts from the edge of the mat. My hand is a little busy at the moment, I respond, without looking away from Dane. Violet. Dane starts. You may have been my oldest friend, my best friend, but that all died the day you violated my privacy, stole my memory, and got Liam and Soliel killed. I will never forgive you for that. I press just hard enough for the blade to scrape against the stubble skin of his upper throat. His eyes flare with something that looks like devastation. Your mother did it. He whispers and slowly rises, first to his knees, removing his forearm from my collarbone, and then to his feet. She wins, he says as he walks off the mat. I tap out. He didn't mean that. There's no way my mother sliced into Zayden 107 times. Dane's just trying to get under my skin. I lie there for a handful of breaths, calming my racing pulse. Then I sheathe my blade and roll, gaining my feet awkwardly. Immaterial calls the next challenge, and I walk off the mat and take my place between Rhiannon and Bodhi. Like nothing happened. Violet? The question in Bodhi's eyes makes me shake my head and reply. He didn't touch me. Every secret in my head is safe. Bodhi nods, then leaves our mat as Eric faces off against a guy from tail section, who looks like he might actually have a shot of ending Eric's winning streak. Walk with me, Rhiannon demands, her jaw tense. Now. Are you pulling rank on me? Do I have to? She folds her arms across her chest. No, of course not. I sigh, then follow her to the edge of the gym. Was that about something he stole? Rhiannon asks, because whatever it wasn't about defeating you. Yes, I answer, rolling my neck as the after effects of the adrenaline roll through me, nausea taking the lead. She waits for me to add to my answer, and then I don't. She sighs. You've been off all day. Is it because of the attack? Yes. I glance over her shoulder and glimpse Imogen watching us. Does she know Mason's dead? Are you really going to make me pry answers out of you? Her arms fall to her sides. I swear to Amari, if you answer with a yes one more time, I say nothing instead. I heard what you said in history, you know. She drops her shoulders. You said something about an assassination? Yeah, I guess I did. She studies me, her gaze flickering between my eyes. Who else besides Mason is dead that went to Aspen with you? My gaze collides with hers, and my heart starts to pound. See Aaron. He was in third squad. I'm not telling her anything that isn't easily answered by anyone else. And you were attacked on assessment day. Imogen's been targeted twice since Parapet 2. So were Bodhi and Aya. Her gaze narrows. Dane has one of those classified signets, she whispers. What did he steal, Violet? God, she's putting it together too quickly. She's also owed as much of that truth as I can give her. A memory, I say slowly. Her eyes flare. He can read memories? I nod. No one is supposed to know. I can keep a secret, Violet. Hurt flashes across her features, and I feel another thread of our friendship unravel, as though I'd pull it myself. A chorus of cheers goes up behind us, but neither of us looks. I know. It's barely a whisper. And I trust you, implicitly, but not every secret is mine to tell. Dread digs its claws into my stomach. She's going to figure it out. It's only a matter of time, and then her life will be in as much jeopardy as mine. Dane stole one of your memories, she repeats, and now you think the other writers with you during war games are being picked off. Stop, I beg her. Do us both a favor and just... I shake my head. Stop. Her brow knits. You saw something you weren't supposed to, didn't you? She tilts her head to the side, then looks away. I stop breathing. I know that look. She's thinking. Is that the memory he stole? No. I inhale. Thank God she's off the mark with that one. Movement to the right catches my attention, and I glance over to see Arik walking our way, cradling his left wrist. Shit, I think he's hurt. What killed Day? Rhiannon asks. Suddenly, there's not enough oxygen in the room on the entire on the entire continent, but I manage to pull air through my lungs and as I face her. You already know that part of the story. Let me restart this. Not from you, she says quietly, her brown eyes crinkling at the edges as she narrows them. You were holding Liam, and then you had to fight. That's what you said. What killed Day? The whispered words cut me to the quick. Was it another dragon? Is that what happened out there? No. I shake my head empathetically, and then turn as Ark reaches us. Finally lose? He scoffs. Of course not. But I did break my wrist. I'm supposed to come tell you, he says to Rhiannon. I'll take him to the infirmary, I tell her. Violet, she starts, her tone indicating that she doesn't think our conversation is over. But it is. It has to be. Stop. I turn my back on Arik and lower my voice. And don't ever ask me that question again. Please don't make me lie to you. Her head draws back and she stares at me in stunned silence. Let's go, I say to Arik, then start walking to the exit, shoving what just happened with Rhi into what's quickly becoming an overfull box. He catches up, his long legs covering the distance quickly. The corridor of the academic's wing's first floors is deserted when we enter, and our booted footsteps echo against the windows. So where does your father think you are? I ask as we turn towards the rotunda, trying to take my mind off everything I just let slip to Rhiannon and everything I didn't. He thinks I'm on my 20th birthday tour, Arik answers, rubbing his hand over his square jawline and light brown scruff, disgust curling his upper lip. Drinking and fucking my way across the kingdom. Sounds like way more fun than what we're doing here. I push the door open with my good arm. What part of this isn't fun? He asks, walking ahead and opening the next door with his unbroken hand. Between the two of us, we have a full set of functioning arms. I crack a smile as we enter the dormitory corridor. Even the chamber, ever the charmer, aren't you, Cam? I wince. Alright, sorry, it's been a hell of a long day. And all I want to do is tell Xaden about it. But he won't be here for 2 more days. We head down the steps, and though Arik is roughly the same height as Xaden, he shortens his strides so I can keep up easily. She's catching on, isn't she? He says when we reach the tunnels. The hairs on the back of my neck lift as I look up at Arik. Catching on to what exactly? They haven't hidden it all away as well as they think they have. His jaw flexes. It's easy to figure out if you know what you're looking for. Personally, it was the daggers my guards started carrying that tipped me off. He shoots a look at me. The ones with the little metal discs. My heart pounds so loudly I can hear it in my ears. Daggers. Metal discs. The guards were the hardest to slip, too. He says with a grimace. They won't tell my father they've lost me until they absolutely have to. I'm just hoping it's after threshing. He can't do shit after threshing. Dragons don't even answer to kings. Oh shit! My chest feels like it's caving in as I grab hold of his good arm, halting our steps after the tunnel. You know, don't you? He lifts a brow, the mage lights catching on those royally green eyes. Why else would I be here? Alrighty. That's the end of chapter 21. Oh, chapter 22 is not that long of a chapter, so that's a good thing. Yay. Alright, so when we get back, we will, from our break, we will read chapter 22. Yay! Sorry, decided to take a little bit longer of a break there. Alright, time for chapter 22. Now, as I said, this is a short chapter, so. Faster. I need to run faster. Fear holds my throat shut as a tidal wave of death chases me across the sunburned field to where Terran waits. His back turned, wind roars around me, stealing every other sound, even my own heartbeat. Terran's going to die, and he doesn't even see it coming for him. Gold flickers near the tip of his wing. Gods, no, and Darna. She's here. She shouldn't be here. The wave nips at my heels, transforming the ground beneath my feet into an ashen, desiccated wasteland. There's nowhere to run, Rider. A hooded figure steps into my path out of nowhere, raising one arm. I'm yanked off my feet by an unseen force and lifted into the air completely, immobilized. The wave of death halts and the wind falls silent as if he stopped time. He shifts his staff to the other hand, then pulls back the thick maroon hood of his floor-length robes with gnarled fingers, revealing the white of his scalp under his slicked back, thinning hair. Shadows marked the gaunt hollows, just like the land behind me, but it's his red-rimmed eyes, the distended veins spider-webbing across his temples and cheeks that have me fighting to open my mouth, straining to scream. Venom. So disappointing, he lectures, as if he's my sage, and not the teacher of the dark wielder I killed on Terran's back. All of that power at your fingertips, and yet you insist on fleeing over and over, using the same failed tactics and expecting what? He tilts his head to the side. To escape? My ribs tighten around my lungs as terror takes hold, and I force a garbled sound through my throat, but it does nothing to warn Terran and Adarna. There is no escaping me, Rider, he whispers, his fingers ghosting over my cheek, but not quite touching. Fight me and die, or join me and live beyond the ages. And you will never escape me, not when I've waited centuries for someone with your power. Fuck you, it comes out as a whisper, but I mean it with every bone in my body. Death it is. He looks so disappointed as he lowers his hand. Wind howls as I fall to the ground. A scream tears through my body as a wave of agony rolls over my skin and bones, leeching the very essence of my energy until I wake. My heart pounding, my skin clammy, my fingers wrapped around my black hilted dagger. Just a dream, just a dream, just a dream. Are you going to tell me where you're going? I asked Zayden on Saturday as he leads me down the stairs where we're going. I asked Zayden on Saturday as he leads me down the stairs from my dorm room. To Badskai's Forge, he says as we emerge from the academic wing into the empty courtyard. It's finally the time of the year when the temperature outside matches inside. Autumn is settling in. My chest tightens as I realize he's taking me to see where they steal the weapons, and what that means. He's letting me in. Thank you for trusting me. The words don't do the feeling justice. You're welcome. He looks down at me, his expression shifting. Will I earn a little trust back? I nod, tearing my gaze away from his before I do something reckless, like let those 3 little words he wants spill out just because we're having a moment. But I can share with him a secret of mine as well. I found a text that said the first 6 didn't just establish the wards, but personally carved the first ward stone. We knew that. Partially. We cross down the tunnels to the flight field, and I nod at one of our first years. Channing? Chapman? Charon? Shit. It's something like that. I'll learn it in a couple weeks after threshing. The text said first ward stone, which means if they carved the one here, that there's a good chance they carved the one in Arisha. I'm on the right track. Good point. He jerks open the door to the tunnels and I walk inside. I know what I need to look for, but I'm not sure where it would even exist. Which is? He asks as we move towards the stairs. My pulse is thrumming with excitement to finally see the forge. Get a look at the luminary that the revolution needs so badly too. I need a first-hand account from one of the 6. My father talked about seeing one once, so I know they exist. Question is, if they've been translated and redacted, it's uselessness. Or into uselessness. We turn into the staircase and both stop abruptly. Major Varish blocks our path. Ah, nice to see you, Lieutenant Ryerson. His smile is just as greasy as ever. Fear squeezes my heart. Xaden is carrying enough contraband to see him executed 24 times. Wish I could say the same, Xaden retorts. Found her, Varish calls up the stairs. Shouldn't you be headed over to the main campus, Ryerson? Surely that's where officers lodge when visiting. His gaze flicks my way. It takes all my willpower not to retreat. There you are, Professor Sorengale. Or Professor... Cadet Sorengale. Professor Grady offers me a genuine smile as he descends, his arms linked through Riddick's, whose hands are behind his back. Riddick shoots me a warning look, and dread settles heavily in my chest. No, not today. We're being taken. Turns out, you're quite hard to catch by surprise, Professor Grady says, a note of admiration in his voice. Your door doesn't allow anyone entrance. He glances at Xaden, his focus shifting to the exposed swirls of his rebellion relic just under his jaw. I'm guessing she has you to thank for that, since second years can't ward. Makes nabbing her for interrogation training a little difficult. I'm not going to apologize. Xaden's eyebrows lower as Varish's riders, the ones who usually dump my belongings on the flight field, both turn the corner above Professor Grady. One escorts Rhiannon and the other Sawyer. Both of them have their hands bound behind their backs. Looks like our squad is next for interrogation, and I almost just saw the mother of all secrets around here. I force myself to breathe, fighting to keep the nausea at bay. She's on leave. Xaden sweeps me to the side, putting me behind his back, and recovering from an injury. Shadow races from the edges of the stairwell, rising to form a waist-high wall. He'll use this opportunity to kill you for the embarrassment Terran put him and Solus through. You can't possibly know that. His intentions are pretty fucking clear. Trust me. No, you're on leave, Varish says, delight sparking in his eyes. Cadet Sorengale is headed out for training. He jabs his finger at the wall of shadows and winces. Well, that's fascinating. No wonder you're so coveted. The pair of you really are quite something. You can't protect me from this any more than you could do threshing, I tell Xaden, stepping out from the shelter of his body. You know it's true. You weren't mine at threshing, he counters. I'm not yours. Now, I remind him. I'll be fine, I say out loud. Drop the barrier. Do listen to your little girlfriend, Varish suggests. I'd hate to report that you disobeyed a direct order, or worse, canceled her leave for the next weekend. There's really nothing you can do here. Oh, fuck. That is not the way to deal with Xaden. Ordering him around only makes him push that much harder, and separating Terran and Scale for 2 weeks is more than they can take. I'm not in your chain of command. Therefore, I'm under no obligation to follow your fucking orders. And there is always something I can do. She is she is in no condition to be tortured. And if her fucking wing leader isn't here to advocate for her, then I will. Sigil, I reach out through the one pathway I avoid at almost every cost. They're going to cancel next week's leave if he doesn't relent. How hurt are you? Grady asks, concern on his face. Dislocated my shoulder last week, I answer. I chose him for his inability to relent, Sigil reminds me. Not helpful at the moment. Do I need to remind you of what he's carrying? Fine, but only so this conversation ends. Her wing leader is otherwise engaged, Varish says to Xaden. And feel free to continue to argue with me. You're right. You're not under my chain of command. But, as I had to remind her dragon, she is. Or did you not hear about her disciplinary sessions? I'd hate for her to have to repeat it simply for you to learn your lesson, Lieutenant. Then again, you could always join us. Xaden smiles, but it's not the kind that warms my heart. It's the one that chills every cell in my body to ice. The cruel, menacing curve I first saw on his on the dais when he was my wing leader. One day, Major Varish, you and I are going to have words. He drops the shadow barrier and lifts a brow at me. You went to Sigil? I make no apologies for saving your ass from your own stubbornness. I put out my good hand, and Grady steps forward, binding it mercifully to the one protruding from the sling. And at least he didn't wrench my hurt shoulder behind my back. But damn, the rope is tight. There's a book on my desk that needs to be returned to the archives. Anger burns in in the depths of the gold-flecked onyx eyes. I'll see that it's done. See you next week, I whisper. Tell her page 304 mentions a text I'd like to read next. Next week, he responds with a nod. His fists clench as Varish walks by with the others in my squad. Violence, remember, it's only the body that's fragile. You are unbreakable. Unbreakable, I repeat to myself as Professor Grady leads me away. Okay, that was a very short chapter. Yay. Alright, let's see. I'm assuming chapter 23 is not that long, but it's longish, but we're gonna take a quick break here. And we will be back in a little bit to finish chapter 23. Alrighty. Chapter 22. Oh, me. Oh! I accidentally bookmarked all of chapter 22 when I did that. Sorry, 23. Get comfortable. Chapter 23. The key can be found in my desk drawer. As far as secret phrases go, the one in is that one is laughably uncreative, but nevertheless, it's the one I'm quietly given after we enter the training facility. The entrance is so well hidden in the cliffside under the foundation walls of the quadrant that I've never seen it in all the years I've lived here. It's a remarkably accessible for its intended purpose. The antechamber of the windowless, guarded cave isn't too bad as far as torture chambers come. It could even double as an office. A large wooden desk consumes the center of the space with a high-backed chair on one side and two on the other. They disarm us as soon as we arrive, our weapons taking up a respectable amount of the desk's surface. But it's two chambers beyond that makes me wish I hadn't eaten breakfast. Both doors are braced with steel, and both have a barred window currently held close by a steel latch. You've all been given your classified information to protect, Professor Grady says, leading us into the chamber on the right. There's a scarred window, or wooden table. The scarred wooden table in the center of the dome-shaped room, with 6 chairs, and along the cobblestone walls are 5 wooden beds with no mattresses, and a door that I'm desperately hoping leads to a bathroom, or things are going to get awkward over the next couple of days. Have a seat. He gestures to the table. We all do as we're told. Rhiannon and I take the chairs across from Sawyer and Riddick, the wood scraping the stone as we sit, all managing it without the use of our hands. But right now, we're in what's called a classroom setting. Remember what that means. Professor Grady reaches behind Sawyer, and a second later, Sawyer's hands are free. It means we're not in the graded scenario. Rhiannon answers, we can ask questions? Correct. Professor Grady moves to Riddick and does the same. The purpose of this exercise really is to teach you how to survive capture, he assures us. The next couple of days are instructional only. He reaches for my bonds next, untying the rope with surprising gentleness. It's an assessment. So you know which buttons to push when it's the real thing, Riddick says, rubbing his wrists. Exactly, Professor Grady smiles. Is it going to be fun? Absolutely not. Are we going to show you mercy? Also no. He moves on to Rhiannon once my hands are free. And Vice Commandant Varish seems to have taken an interest in your squad. No doubt because you have quite the legacy here in Cadet Sorengale. So unfortunately, it looks like we'll all be evaluated in how we handle this. 2 riders walk in with trays of food and pewter mugs, setting them down on the table. There are more than enough biscuits for 4 of us and a jar of what looks to be strawberry jam. Eat and drink, Professor Grady says, gesturing to the trays. You won't have the opportunity once we enter the scenario. Also, he flashes a grin, there's a patch up for grabs if you manage to escape. Though, from what I hear, no squad has managed it in the last decade. It's as good as ours, Riddick responds. Confidence, Professor Grady nods at Riddick. I like that in a second year. He moves towards the door, then turns. I'll let you know when we begin the scenario. Until then, we all need to share a secret. Something no one else outside of the four of you could possibly know. And yes, we're going to try and force it out of you, along with the secret phrases you've already been given. Remember the coping mechanisms you've learned through, or you've been taught in class so far. And this will be over before you know it. Every writer who graduates has sat where you're sitting and made it through what you're about to experience. Have faith in yourself. We're doing this for you, not to you. He offers a final reassuring smile, then takes his leave, shutting the door behind him. Rhiannon moves immediately to the door, examining the bars and sealed hatch. It's not sound shielded, that I can tell, but if we keep our voices down, we should have a modicum of privacy. She tries the handle, and we're definitely locked in. Sawyer parcels out the food onto the four plates we've been given. It's all so civilized, I note as he slides a plate in front of me. Rhiannon checks the other door. This isn't, and that's a bathroom. Thank God. I wonder if they take it away during the actual test. Riddick muses, slathering jam onto his biscuit with the lone knife we've been provided. Fuck, I hope not, Sawyer says, taking the knife from Riddick. Anyone else wondering if we're expecting company? He nods towards the bed on the end. Sarcastically, 5 second years are allowed in each squad at this point, I say, reaching for one of the mugs on the tray. We lost Nadine. Silence falls for a second, then 2. Well, we're not losing anyone else. The 4 of us will make it to graduation, Rhiannon says, grabbing a mug for herself, too. She sniffs at it, then sets it down. Smells like apple juice. All right. We don't know how much time we have, so let's go. Pick a secret, any secret, and share with the group. The knife and jam go to her next. I'll start. Last year, while we were at Montserrat, Violet and I snuck out so I could see my family. You what? Sawyer's brows rise. Rick swallows his bite. Badass. Didn't know you had it in you to break the rules, Violet. Oh, Violet's full of secrets, aren't you? Rhiannon shoots a look my way and hands me the knife. Really? I dish out the jam a little too aggressively. Whoa, Riddick glances between us. Am I picking up on some tension? No, Rhea and I simultaneously answer, then look at each other. Both our shoulders sag, and she sighs, looking away. I guess that's where our lines are drawn. This thing we're going through is just between us. We're fine, she says. Somehow that makes me feel a little better, but not much. I bite into the biscuit and chew thoroughly, just in case whatever they put us through makes me puke up later. I need a secret I can share that won't get any of them killed. I didn't tell my parents I had to repeat, Sawyer says, his gaze locking on his plate. They didn't even question my first letter this year. They assumed that Writer's Quadrant cadets couldn't write for the first 2 years, and I let them believe it. I just didn't want them to be embarrassed of me. You're not an embarrassment, I say softly, reaching for my mug. And I'm sure they're just glad you're alive. So many of us aren't. Agreed, Riddick nods, his hands wrapped around his mug. I'm terrified of snakes. That's a shitty secret, Sawyer counters, his mouth lifting into a smile. Surprise me with one and you'll see just how shitty. Besides, you didn't know it, so I think it qualifies. Riddick shrugs. We're not supposed to have a weakness in the quadrant, right? That's my weakness. I scream like a toddler every time I see one. Everyone looks my way. Here we go. I'm in love with Xaden Ryerson. Mirror them. I see them to be able to say the words to anyone who isn't Xaden. I hate to break it to you, but that's not a secret, Riddick says, shaking his head. Yes, it is, I argue, my grip tightening on the mug. No, Sawyer chimes in. It's really not. Hasn't been for a while, Ree adds, giving me the first real smile I've seen from her in weeks. You're going to have to do better than that. They're supposed to be on my they're supposed to be my center, my backbone, my safe place. That's why that's why squad mates are forbidden from killing each other. Venin, Wyvern, the Daggers, the Wards, Andarna, Brennan, Arisha. I have too many secrets to count, and none of them are safe for it. They're just blissfully ignorant. Can't my secret be the same as Rhiannon's? I ask. No, they all answer. There has to be one thing I can tell them that might help prepare them for what's coming. Our infantry is killing Poromish civilians at the border. What? Sawyer leans in, his freckles standing out at as the blood drains from his face. There's no way, Riddick argues. Rhiannon stares silently at me. Happened while I was at Samara. I look them each in the eye. Whether or not we're getting updated at Battle Brief, it's happening. Good enough secret? They all nod, and I look away when I catch Rhiannon studying me. Good, I say, lifting my mug. The others do the same. I breathe in, tilting the mug to drink. Stop, I hiss. Don't drink it. I set it down like the poison it is. What the hell? Riddick says, putting his mug on the table. It smells like the water they gave us before the land navigation course, I whisper. Ree and Sawyer set theirs down too. They're trying to disconnect us from our dragons, Sawyer notes. Or dull our signets, Rhiannon adds. Did anyone drink? We all shake our heads. Good. Don't tell them. Fake the disconnect. She rises quickly as we follow, each dumping the content of our mugs in the toilet. We can't survive for 3 days without water. Or we can survive for 3 days without water, and we should be out of here tomorrow. No matter how thirsty we get, we'll live. We hold the line. Ugh, this book is getting heavy. Now I understand the biscuits. My mouth feels like I've been eating sand. We hold the line, Sawyer agrees, as we return to the table and sit. Fuck tomorrow. I say we break out tonight, Riddick whispers. There have to be keys that you can transport, right? He says to Ree. Not through walls. She shakes her head. I'm close, but not there yet. Or you can bend the metal hinges. That one is directed to Sawyer. Hell, I can pull moisture out of the air and force ice through the lock. He turns to me. I'm of absolutely no use in this situation. I lean back in my chair. The door swings open and Professor Grady walks in. We can't reach our dragons, Ree says, lifting her chin. You tricked us. Lesson number 1, he holds up a finger. We're always in scenario. 10 minutes later, we find out what the second chamber holds. Not much. When they chain Riddick, Rhiannon, and Sawyer to the rock wall they've been ordered to sit against, they're close enough together that they can almost but not quite touch, as their wrists are cuffed in hanging manacles. There are at least 6 other seats on either side of the trio, and the mage lights above us show every dried blood splatter on the stone. I'm guessing this seat is for me? I ask Professor Grady, eyeing the stained wooden chair in the center of this cylindrical room, and it's shackled along each armrest and leg. My heart pounds like it has a chance of escaping my chest. Escaping this room. There's a drain under the chair, but I refuse to even think about what it's for. It is, he motions, and I sit ignoring every instinct to flee. Panic threatens to choke me as he locks my right arm into the shackle, then does the same with both of my legs, leaving my dislocated shoulder in the sling. Here is where I leave you. You what? Riddick pulls against the shackles as his wrists, at his wrists, but they don't give. I'll read the reports and give you my advice before the exam, he tells us. But we learned a long time ago that it doesn't exactly foster trust between cadets and professors if we're the ones doing the questioning. He looks at each of us in turn. Remember, remember what you've been taught. They'll try to separate you, turn you against one another, or make you think that talking is an act of mercy. Use the strategies from your reading. Lean on one another. I'll be outside the entrance. You make it to me, and you earn that patch. Good luck. He smiles like he didn't just serve us up to be beaten, then leaves. It is now a good time to admit that I haven't done this portion of the reading, Riddick asks once we're alone. No, Rhiannon shoots him a glare. Violet, are you alright? Sawyer asks. I'm the only one in a chair, so it feels like I'm one up on you guys, I joke. But it falls flat as the door opens behind me. Two riders I've never seen before, one man, one woman, enter. The man offers us a smile. Well, hello there. You are all prisoners selected for interrogation, he says, leaning against the wall, just out of reach from Sawyer. He's average, unremarkable in height, looks even his hair. I could have passed him a dozen times in the halls of Bezgaeth or any of the outposts and not noticed him. Same goes for the woman. It's as if being unmemorable is necessary for the job. The woman circles me, a vulture scenting for weakness. I lift my chin, determined to show none. You each have one piece of information we need, the man says. Give it up now, and it all ends. It's as easy as that. My map is under my mattress, Riddick says. My jaw fucking drops. Going for the start line immediately so they won't know when you tell the truth strategy, the man grins. Good one, but unfortunately for you, my signet is similar to Lieutenant Nora's, and has to do with your bodily functions. In layman's terms, I know when you're lying, and you are lying. The woman lashes out and the back of her hand striking my cheek so hard that my head snaps to the side. Pain bursts and I blink rapidly, then run my tongue over my teeth. No blood. Silver one. Not now. I slam my shields up to spare him this. Violet! Riddick shouts, surging against his chains. I'm all right, I tell him. They tell all of them. I do what I always do. Compartmentalize the pain and push past it, forcing a smile. See? Fine. Rhiannon quickly masks her horror, but Sawyer doesn't bother to hide his disgust with our captors. You're the weakest. That's why you're up first, the woman says, disdain dripping from her low voice. We've read the files on all of you. She drops to a crouch in front of me, then looks me over, her attention catching on my hair. The sting of heat at my cheek that I'm sure bears her handprint. And finally, the sling. How did someone as frail as you survive your first year? You three carried her, didn't you? The man says, looking at my squad mates. What an unfair burden to put on first years. Don't tell them anything they can't use against us, Rhiannon orders. The woman laughs. As if we don't know everything already. She stands slowly. Tell us the secret you're keeping. Fuck off, I brace. And sure enough, her hand flies at my face. This time, I taste blood, but none of my teeth are loose. I build my mental wall around the pain, picturing it disappearing beneath the box I built for it, just like I do with my shields. Quite the mouth for a general's daughter, the woman sneers. Who do you think I got it from? Her facade slips, and she genuinely smiles for a heartbeat before masking it. How about this? Any of you give up your secret, and I won't shatter her pretty little face. It's going to take a lot more than that to break us, Rhiannon says. I couldn't agree more. Don't watch, I tell my squad mates. Then brace. She hits from the other side, striking higher, and my cheek explodes. At least that's how it feels. The initial wave nauseates me, then dissipates into a dull throb. A throb. I can't speak. My vision in my right eye blurs, and something wet trickles down my cheek. Maybe she's not the key, the woman says, backing away from me and heading for the others. Maybe you're all sick and tired of having to carry her frail weight. She tips Riddick's head up. Or maybe she's only strong for herself. She closed fist punches him in the face. Blood and saliva hit the wall next to him. Rage overtakes the pain, and I try to rock forward, but not only are my arms and legs shackled, the chair is bolted to the floor. She looks over her shoulder at me. You have the power to make it stop, she hits again. I close my eyes and wish I could close my ears when I hear his grunt after the next punch. And the next, and the next. When I open my eyes, correction, we've all taken a hit. Let them sit with that for a minute, the man suggests. They'll soften up in a couple of hours. The woman agrees, and they leave us, shutting the door, but not the hatch on the window. Well, this fucking sucks. Sawyer spits blood onto the floor. Violet, your eye, Rhiannon says softly. It's swelling shut, not falling out. I shrug with my good shoulder. If that's their opening, what's next? Riddick asks. His cheek is split wide open. They'll try to turn us against one another, Rhiannon answers. We don't break. Agreed? Agreed. We all say it. The worst part isn't the pain or the swollen eye. It's the hours of waiting, the not knowing when they're going to come back and dish out worse. And then worse comes and leaves us all with more bruises in various places. I'm pretty sure that last blow left Sawyer concussed. Without windows, it's impossible to know how much longer we have to hold out for when we don't know what time it is. What time is it? I ask Xaden, lifting my shields just enough to communicate. Almost midnight, he answers. Are you? Don't finish that question. You know what happens down here. Yeah, I do. It's almost midnight, I tell the others quietly. We still have all night to go. Is Terran listening for the bells? Sawyer asks, turning his face against his shackled arm to clear some of the blood off. Not exact. The door opens and the man walks in carrying a pewter mug. Who's thirsty? He drops down in front of Sawyer, blocking my view of his face. It's right here, and you don't even have to give me your secret. You just have to tell me one of their personal ones. He motions down the line. It doesn't count as breaking. It's just a personal detail that doesn't mean anything. Fuck you. Pity, the man tilts his head. You're just not thirsty enough yet. Don't worry, you'll get there. He moves to Rhiannon, then Riddick, then me. Our answers are all the same. Tight-knit group, aren't they? Chills race down my spine as Varish walks in, eyeing us all with unfettered joy. They are, sir, the man says. Varish rubs his thumb across his chin. Does someone usually give up a personal detail by now? They do, sir. Pride flares behind my ribs. Varish leans down and flicks the green Iron Squad patch on Riddick's chest. I'm guessing that's how they earned this last year. He stands and sighs. This is taking too long. Sir, we're using standard interrogation protocol, the woman says, entering the chamber. Then it's a good thing that I'm here. His cheery disposition scares me more than the woman's first. This is my area of expertise. Interrogation. And I have just the thing to crack them in record time. He looks towards the hallway, then crooks his fingers. Come on in. Don't be shy. Rhiannon's eyes flares, her gaze jumping from the doorway to me. The fear I see there hits me like a punch to the stomach. I believe you all know Wing Leader Atos. Okay. That was the end of chapter 23. Alright. When we get back, and chapter 24 is not that long either, so that's a good thing. When we get back from our break, we will continue with chapter 24. And that'll be the end of reading for the day. Alrighty. Time for our last chapter. Our last chapter of the day, at least. Okay. Chapter 24. Dane steps into view, and my heart hits the stone floor as he surveys my friends, then turns towards me. His eyes widen as he takes stock of my bruised and swollen face. Violet? Dane is here. I reach for Xaden, even as fear freezes me in place. This can't happen. I'm unsure how much Dane knows, but it's definitely not as much as I do. I'm on my way. The tense tone of Xaden's voice is all it takes for me to know how deep this shit is about to get. You can't do anything. I reinforce my shields, putting all my mental energy into the task and drawing power from Terran to bolster them. Stacking the bricks too deep around my mental archives. I don't understand, Sawyer says. Why is our wing leader here? He's advocating for her, like Ryerson said a wing leader should, Riddick answers, hope in his voice. Aren't you? He's not, I answer, keeping my eyes on Dane and his hands. Regulations state that riders should be healthy before beginning interrogation assessments, Dane barks, ripping his gaze from mine to address Varish. Cadet Sorengale is clearly not healthy. I blink in sheer surprise. Such a rule follower, Varish clucks his tongue. Regulations say that should, not that they have to be. It's more realistic that a rider would be wounded when captured. What am I doing here? Dane demands. Testing a theory, Varish smiles. But while we're waiting for our guest to arrive, you should practice on her. He points to me. Guest. My fear is replaced with anger. Don't come. Varish wants to see if you will. I think he's testing the bond-blocking mixture. If he sees your memory, the entire movement is at risk. And if you come in here whipping shadows around, he'll know I have something to hide, and this will become a real interrogation. Your only option is to trust that you trained me well enough. A rescue sounds great in theory, but would fuck all of us over. Violet, the plea in his voice nearly breaks me. I shove that last brick in place and block Xaden out. You want me to... Dean lifts his brows. Yes, use your signet on her, only to draw out the secret phrase, of course. My signet is classified. And she already knows what it is, Varish says, shaking his head like this is all no big deal. Doesn't she? That's why she's so angry with you. She blames you for what happened to her friend. He walks forward. It's amazing what you can learn by simply observing. Dane shakes his head. I'm not doing this. Then who are you going to practice on to extend your ability past recent events? They're running out of civilians around here for Nolan to mend, and if you think she hasn't told the rest of her squad your little secret, you're giving her far too much credit. Holy shit. While Carr is my teacher, Varish is Dane's. What the hell is our vice commandant's signet? Dane stiffens, his eyes searching mine. I don't deny it. I can't. I'm a shitty liar, and with the lie finder, or whatever his signet is called, on the other side of the room, I'm better off keeping my mouth shut. This is what your signet is made for. You're the first line of defense, Atos. She could be a Peromish spy, or a Griffin rider. You could have the entire kingdom, you could save the entire kingdom just by plucking her secrets from her memories. Varish looks at me like I'm an animal made to be studied. You can't see what really happened that day when the two marked ones were killed by... He cocks his head to the side. Griffins, wasn't it, Cadet Sorengale? The truth is waiting, wing leader Atos. and you're the only one who can see it. Breathe in, breathe out. I concentrate on steadying my heart rate and holding Dane's gaze. Holy shit, Riddick mutters. He can what? I keep my focus on Dane. How can someone be so familiar and yet such a stranger? He's the same boy I climbed trees with, the same one I ran to whenever anything went wrong. But he's also the reason Soliel and Liam are dead. You can learn what it is she sees in him, Varys whispers, getting closer to Dane. Why she chose him over you. Don't you want to know? All the answers are right there. You just have to know where to reach. Have to give it to him. He's convincing as fuck. The war with Dane's eyes makes my throat tighten. And when he reaches for my face with both hands, I arch my neck, leaning as far back as the chair will allow me. No, I force the word out. No, he repeats my refusal slowly, then drops his hands, his gaze falling from mine. I will not participate in an interrogation assessment of a cadet with a prior injury, he says over his shoulder at Varys. Then he walks out. I drag a breath in, air wheezing past the tightness of my throat and into my lungs. Rhiannon's eyes meet mine, then slide shut slowly in relief. That was disappointing and anticlimactic, Varys says with the first frown I've ever seen on his face. Fucking rule follower. Back to typical tactics, I guess. He draws back before I can brace and throws a hard punch in my dislocated shoulder. Agony overwhelms every one of my senses. Then there's only black. Nolan hovers above me when I wake. I jolt up from the wooden bed and he rears back. There she is, he says, settling into the chair next to the bed. What time is it? I glance around the room, quickly spotting Rhiannon, Sawyer, and Riddick sitting on bunks. They don't look any more injured than they did before I passed out. Before Varys punched my shoulder out of the socket, gingerly I rotate the joint, then look at Nolan. I'm mended. There's an ache, but nothing more. And I can see out both my eyes. He nods. It's morning, Rhea answers, worry lining her forehead. I think. I reach for Xaden, but the pathway is opaque again. He's gone. The Vice Commandant called me in to heal you. Nolan's voice drops, and he leans forward. So he can shatter you again and again until you break. I'm on orders to remain in the antechamber for the rest of your interrogation, which he's extended until tomorrow. Dread knots my empty stomach. Is that normal? Sawyer asks, leaning toward me and bracing his forearms on his knees. No, Nolan answers, holding my gaze. He wants whatever it is you know, Violet. He reaches for my hand and squeezes lightly. Is it worth holding on to? I nod. Is it worth watching your squad mates tortured? I wince, but nod again. I think I've had my head buried in other matters for too long. He sighs, then stands. Why don't you walk me to the door? I swing my legs over the bunk, then do as he asks, following him to the chamber's door. Rhiannon isn't far behind. You'd better find a way out, he whispers to me before speaking through the open window. I'm done for now. The door opens and Nolan escapes. I'll close it, he tells whoever is on the other side. His eyes meet mine, through the window as he shuts the door, the lock audibly clicking into place, but not the window. Rhiannon tugs me down, and we both drop into a crouch. I've been thinking about my other patient, Nolan says casually. What about him? Varys replies. He spent the night in the infirmary again. Sorrengail will have to sleep off the mending for another hour or so. Why don't you walk back with me and see if your particular skills could be of use? I might be overlooking something. Rhiannon and I exchange the same confused look. You think the sessions are failing? Varys asks. I think I've done all I can for him, Nolan answers. I'm not going to sit here all day and waste time while she's sleeping. Fine, we'll go, Varys replies. We have to be quick. The others are fetching breakfast. Then by all means, let's make it fast. A moment later, the antechamber door opens and closes. Rhiannon and I stand slowly, then peer through the window. I think we're alone, she whispers. Agreed. We have to get out of here, Rhiannon says to the guys. I really honestly think Varys might try to kill Violet. My stomach flips. Oh, Dune, she actually said it. Are you serious? Sawyer asks, his eyes bulging, but Riddick stays quiet, his gaze jumping between Rhiannon and me. He's already pushed me to burnout once, I admit quietly. A look passes between the guys, and they stand. Fine, I'll ask the obvious question, Riddick says as they cross the chamber. What the hell do you know that we don't? I glance between all three of them. If I told you, and trust me, I've considered it, you would be the one strapped to the chair. I'm not about to let that happen. Maybe you should let us decide what risks we're willing to take. Sawyer cracks his knuckles and rolls his shoulders, already looking at the door. Lesser magic isn't working on the lock, Riddick mutters, his hands extended toward the door. Valid point, Sawyer. But this, I shake my head. It's not just about me. Right now it is, Rhiannon says. It's all about saving you. We can figure the rest out later. Sawyer, do your thing. Already on it. We move out of the way, and he puts his hand up toward each of the hinges, his fingers trembling and the hinges smoke, then melt. Hot metal drips down the edges of the door as he works. Quick, before you accidentally weld us in here, Riddick lectures. I don't see you melting anything, Sawyer responds from where he's crouched, sweat beading his brow as he melts the last hinge. Relief nearly takes out my knees. We're going to make it. The door wobbles, and Rhiannon and I lunge towards the guys, both throwing up our hands up over them. Wood smacks into my palms, sending a jolt of pain through my newly mended shoulder as we catch what feels like the heaviest door ever made. Move! Rhiannon shouts. The guys scurry out from under the door, then help us lower it to the floor. We should consider quitting the quadrant, Riddick jokes as we walk over the door and out of the chamber. We'd be a kick-ass thieves. With dragons, Sawyer agrees. Unstoppable, Riddick says with a grin. We pause at the desk only long enough to retrieve our weapons. I feel a little less panicked, less vulnerable with every blade I sheath. Ready? Rhiannon asks, gripping her short sword. Guess I'm not the only one who disdains feeling helpless. We all nod, then head for the main door. Hope lives for all of a millisecond. It's the same kind of lock. Lesser magic isn't working, Sawyer seethes, already putting his hands out. I don't. Heat prickles along my ribs. It's the same feeling I get when I walk through the wards on my door. I look down and stare. The dagger closest to the door handle is hot and tingling. I pull it from the sheath, bumping against the door handle as I brush my thumb over the decorative pommel. Metal clicks against metal, and we all turn and look at the lock. What the hell? Sawyer's eyebrows jump. I don't know. That's impossible. Knives don't open locks. But the heat and the tingling sensation are gone. Someone stop staring and try the fucking door, reorders. Reaching for the handle, I hold my breath as the latch depresses. I pull. The door opens. Holy shit! It's coincidence. It has to be. Magic isn't tied to objects like that. Holy shit. Holy shit later. Escape now, Rhi says. Go. Right. I sheathe my blade and yank the door open. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh my goodness, my stomach hurts. Alright. Alrighty guys, that is the end of chapter 24 and the end of today's reading. Alright. I hope you all. I hope you all enjoyed. Oh, wrong one. Reading for or listening for today. And yeah, well, I will see you all again tomorrow. And if I recall, I don't know exactly which chapter it is, but there is a spicy scene coming up. So I think there will be a spicy scene that I will be reading tomorrow. So I will see you all then, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.